Hey, do you like art? Do you have a boring full-time job working for someone else? Do you wish you had your own successful business, working few hours so you'd have more time to enjoy yourself? If the answers are yes, yes, and yes, then you should start an online gallery. Starting a new business usually requires startup funds in the thousands, but starting an online art gallery requires only a couple of $100s of investment. Most entrepreneurs need to hire and manage employees, but an online art gallery owner doesn't have to hire anyone. Running a business usually means working long, hard hours, but maintaining an online art gallery takes just a few hours a month. This video will tell you everything you need to know to get started. Traditional art galleries make money by selling art and taking a commission. The problem with that is that it requires a lot of time and investment to cultivate personal relationships with affluent collectors. With an online art gallery, you can much more easily make money off the artists themselves. Simply host monthly juried exhibitions and charge submission fees. Artists are always seeking juried show credit to put on their resumes, and since submission fees are an industry standard, artists are willing to pay. While it might sound complicated to set up, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. As you can see, there are already plenty of existing models to copy and services set up to make it a piece of cake. First, decide on a name for your gallery and then purchase the domain. Next, shop around for a website builder that offers attractive templates for photo galleries. Decide how you're going to collect the fees. You could create a form using the website builder you select, or you could use one of the services set up to run juried shows, like Cafe, Entry Thingy, or Submittable. Your only other investment will be in targeted advertising. Services like Cafe and Entry Thingy double as advertising since your calls for artists will be among their lists. But Art Show and Art Deadlines are also worth the investment in advertising. Those two, and a mailing list so you can encourage artists to reapply, should be enough to get the word out. You'll want to start out with some attractive artwork on your website so it looks legit. Make your first show an invitational. Simply go to a bunch of artist websites, you can find plenty in the online art galleries that already exist, find impressive looking works, and ask the artist if you can show your favorites in your gallery's first exhibition. Few artists will turn down a show, especially if it costs them nothing. If anything, they'll feel flattered. And be sure to invite artists from different countries and who work in different media, so that you can call it an international and all-media exhibition. That sounds impressive, but really, you're just setting yourself up to attract future submissions from a wide pool of artists, which brings us to part 2. Charge a submission fee that is between $12 and $25. You could have a flat fee or offer a sliding scale based on the number of submissions. By contrast, the most common submission fee for brick and mortar galleries is $35. They also take commissions. Of course, that's because brick and mortar galleries have many more expenses and personal connections with networks of collectors, but you don't want applicants focused on that. Insist that online galleries are a better deal and that they empower artists. Point out that artists don't have to spend money on framing or shipping. Emphasize the much greater number of potential buyers who might see the shows, and that artists get to keep 100% of the profits. Remember, the point is to collect as many submission fees as possible. That's how you make money. Toward that end, there are certain phrases you'll want to use to maximize the number of applicants. These competitions are for both emerging and established artists. Your gallery promotes highly competitive competitions that are open to anyone, without regard to formal education, experience, or where an artist resides. They encourage diversity, with entries from all artists of all nationalities, working in both 2D and 3D. This includes digital art and photography. And like that, all of your juried shows should have a theme. Most galleries, both online and brick and mortar, apply themes to their juried exhibitions. Themes are great because they are a way to make it seem like the show has a special and substantial focus. Of course, you don't actually want your theme to be specific, because then it would exclude the work of too many potential applicants. So themes must be vague. Make a point of telling artists that the theme is open to artists' interpretation. Remember, this isn't about thoughtfully curated group shows where works are united and made even more meaningful by a common vision. It's about getting just about any artist who sees the call to think to themselves, "Yeah, I have a piece that fits that." You might want to feature a work of art that depicts people of color prominently. especially if it is pleasant, cheerful work. It will give a superficial impression that your gallery is inclusive. The work doesn't have to be by an artist of color, but it does need to look impressive by the conventional standards of affluent people. Be careful not to feature too many works whose style or subject matter could be associated with minority or low-income communities. You can include some such work, especially if it's done in a very slick and refined manner, but be sure to predominantly include artwork that clearly requires a huge investment of resources to produce. Remember, poor artists can't afford fees. The artists willing and able to pay fees are trying to launch their professional careers, so they need to be convinced that affluent collectors will visit your website. Which brings us to part 3. On the website, and in any correspondence you have with the artists, always use we. You don't want to give the impression that the entire gallery is run by one person. In fact, if you have any artist friends, ask if they'll be your honorary consultants. Then, you can include their bios and professional links. It will please them while furthering your gallery's perceived credibility. You will be the one jurying these shows. After all, you don't want to have to pay a juror. If you have any credentials connected to the arts, promotion, or marketing, and I mean any, use them to write a glowing short bio. After you've published the first invitational show, call yourself a curator. Unless you have any real credentials, keep it brief and vague. Find creative ways to use words like training, travel, and experience. You might also add a short testimonial about how you started this gallery because your goal was always to work in the arts and there are not enough platforms for all the talented artists out there. You can always keep a low profile on the website by burying your bio in an FAQ and pushing the artists with genuinely impressive resumes into the spotlight. The actual judging will be easy, because there are no universal or objective standards by which art can be pronounced good, so you need not pore over the submitted works with any lengthy consideration. Reject any submissions where the image is blurry, too dark, or overexposed, or otherwise is poorly photographed. Featuring such work on your website could make it appear less professional and discourage applicants. Also, reject works that appear easy to make and that rely on concept. You want imagery that instantly attracts and impresses, not imagery that might confuse or take time to process. Accept all entries that are attractive and appear difficult to make. You want to accept as many of these as possible because those artists will share a link back to your website with their friends and colleagues, providing you with free advertising. They are also more likely to become repeat applicants. This means that you might be accepting most of the work submitted, which could make your show seem less prestigious, if anybody knows. So, if anyone asks how many submissions you receive, don't tell them the truth. If you can, be evasive. If you need to, lie. But keep it off the record. There is no benefit to being truthful and transparent. Offer awards. It could be as simple as every show having a first, second, and third place winner, with everyone else being finalists. These are all terms that many artists will want for their resumes. Awards don't need to cost you anything. However, offering a small cash award for the top 1 to 3 winners is recommended. Cash awards attract more professional artist submissions, and with them come more submissions in general. How big of a cash award you offer depends on how much you're willing to spend, which might be difficult to decide before submissions are in. Many online galleries don't specify the amount, so don't feel like you have to. So long as you give the winner some token amount, you're in the clear. Emphasize how much exposure your gallery is offering, which could come in the form of social media posts, press releases, or simply the fact that your online gallery will maintain archives of all of its past shows forever. Associate the value of that exposure with monetary compensation. You must convince artists that the submission fee is a trivial investment compared to what they get back in return. Even if their submitted work is rejected, they gain valuable experience. Offer gimmicks that might pull more people in but don't cost you much. For example, you could attract do-gooders by pledging to donate a small percentage of fees to a charitable organization. Whether you actually donate the money or not is between you and your conscience. It's not like you'll ever have to prove you did. Once or twice a year, you could offer a solo show instead of a juried show. This is great because solo shows are highly desirable for artists' resumes, so you could charge a higher submission fee. They also have the benefit of being easier for you to jury since you only have to pick one artist who has a particularly impressive looking body of work. That's all there is to it. And doesn't that sound easier and less time consuming than working that boring job where all the profits go to someone else? And look, there's no reason to feel bad about exploiting artists who've already invested a ton of resources into their careers, because you're only exploiting the artists who can afford to be exploited. And who knows, maybe the exposure you provide a couple of them will actually further their careers in some manner. Yes, you'll be perpetuating class and race-based inequalities that already exist as far as artistic representation goes, but that's just how a capitalist economy works. What do you want instead? Socialism? Why would you martyr yourself on the altar of social justice? The only real drawback to this is that it's so easy and potentially lucrative for people who don't have a lot of capital to invest that a lot of other people might also start doing it, and that could eventually saturate the market to the point where you can't make profit. So move on this now while the getting is good. Just think, maybe you'll be able to save just enough money to buy a nice piece of property in some beautiful, desirable location. Then you could support yourself and work even less hours by renting it out on Airbnb. Act now.
You want to go to the junkyard and look for something we can trade for jelly beans?